Good evening. Welcome to the spooky Halloween edition of Cosmic Potato. I am your host, Count Sean Von Ray. Joining me tonight in the haunted studio, we have Scott. How are you, sir?
I have accent. Yes.
Jen is here as well. How are you?
I'm just happy to be the final girl.
Rick is here as well. How are you, sir?
Blah blah blah.
And
That's from
John
the only Adam Sandler. No, not Adam. Yeah, Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler.
Only
Yeah,
Adam Sandler movie I've ever liked.
And John is here as well. He's backstage. He'll be typing in from time to time. He wants me to talk like that through the whole show. I choose not to. Do you guys know what
choice?
Do you guys know what today is? Today is a special day because this is episode 200.
Woo!
Woo! And you don't have your soundboard going for it?
I don't. And technically, we've done more than 200 shows because we did a few bonus episodes, and we did 12 Days of Christmas last year. That was 12 extra shows, but they were short shows, so I didn't count them as normal episodes. We've had 200 actual episodes of the show. So
Nice.
So that's over the last 6 years. I don't have anything super special planned to commemorate, but I do want to take a minute to thank everyone that's taken part and supported the show over the last 6 years and made it something that I didn't give up on or lose interest in. The biggest reason that I do this show is to talk to people that I like about stuff that I like. And the second reason is because all of you out there listening, making comments and posting things on our Facebook group, make it a lot of fun. If I didn't have both of those things, participants and an audience, then there wouldn't be a show to do. So, and special thanks to our patrons, because you go the extra mile and you contribute to the show financially. You're the reason that I've got a new webcam right now. And if you want to be part of that, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/infinitepotato and find out how you can become a patron and get special episodes and early access to some of our content. So go check that out. So tonight is the third part of our Halloween series. And we've talked about our family-friendly spooky picks. Well, you know what? Before we get into that, while we're talking about family-friendly, since I brought that up, have any of you guys watched the Muppets Haunted Mansion on Disney
Nope.
Plus?
Is that new?
Yeah, it just came out yesterday.
Okay, I saw it, and for some reason I was like, oh, that was years ago, wasn't it? And I just I haven't watched it.
No, this is
I'm
brand new.
afraid to.
It's funny. It's good. It's only an hour long. I mean, it's not a movie.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
It's just a special. But it's this hybrid of the Muppets and the Haunted Mansion from Disney World. So if you've ever ridden the ride at Disney World, the Haunted Mansion, it's got a lot of that stuff in it, but they're mixing it with Muppets. So you've got if you remember in the ride, there's a ballroom scene. There's a lot of people dancing. Well, in the special, they're all Muppets dancing, and it's a callback to the ballroom dancing scenes from the Muppet Show. You know, where they stop and each couple tells a little joke, and then they go to the next couple or whatever. And they recreate the Muppet Show theme, but
They do.
yeah,
Wow.
they sing a Halloween song about killing Gonzo, and it's sung to the tune of the Muppet Show theme song, and it's pretty fantastic. Kermit's voice sounds weird. I don't know who's doing his voice.
This is
these
like
days.
the third person doing Kermit, so
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Everybody else is pretty on par, except Fozzie has teeth now for some reason, and that's weird. But he was also, it wasn't really Fozzie. It was like a ghost version of Fozzie.
Okay,
so
let's
I
not
don't know.
spoil any more of it, shall we?
I'm not spoiling it. Just Fozzie has teeth. That's not a spoiler. Okay.
Well, I don't think that's the portion of the statement that he was referring to. But in classic Sean fashion, he gets called out on spoiling, and then he just plays it off as, "Oh, that's not really."
It's not spoiling. It's not
See, he's not me. I mean,
I don't think you can spoil this. I mean, it's a Muppet special. It's just all
There
right.
may be things that it's like, oh, that's funny. I
Ex-
wish I didn't know that was going to happen.
Excuses.
So we've talked about our favorite horror movies that came out before the year 2000, and tonight we're going to talk about the best horror movies that have come out since the year 2000. So the last 21 years have seen. Whoa, Virginia's wanting to be admitted. Let me bring her in. There's Virginia. Hey, oh, she's connecting. There she is. Hey, Virginia.
Hello.
Hey, you're here. We're just about to talk about horror movies.
Awesome.
So the last 21 years have seen a lot of changes to horror. Torture porn has kind of become the norm. We've got found footage films are a pretty regular occurrence now. There's a lot more films coming out that are kind of blurring the lines between horror and comedy. So we're going to talk about some of our favorite things that have come out more recently, and by recent I mean anytime in the last 21 years. So Jen, why don't you start us out? What's one of your favorite horror movies that came out after the year 2000?
Let the Right One In, which I've mentioned before.
Fantastic movie.
This is the original, not the remake. It was also Let Me In, which was the remake that came out in 2010, which was the American version. But Let the Right One In is the original. And it's a vampire movie that's very atypical for a vampire movie because it has a vampire child in it. I also have the novel, love it. I personally enjoy it. It's one of those, it takes place in the 80s, and it's essentially a young boy in school. You know how it starts out. A young boy in school is teased, is a nice way to put it. He's bullied. He ends up befriending a girl who moves in to the apartment complex that he's in, and she has a guardian who you find out later is her protector, but she's basically stuck as a child because she's a vampire. And I can't go much more into it because there's a lot of spoilery stuff, even for a film that's but
Yeah, you don't want to spoil this one. This one is best enjoyed.
The ending is, oh yes, the ending is masterful. That's all I'll say. Definitely want to, if you're into vampire films at all, especially vampire films that go away from the norm, definitely recommend Let the Right One In.
Can I just put in an addendum on this?
Sure.
Watch the subtitled version, because if you got the DVD, or I presume the Blu-ray, there are multiple audio tracks, and you can watch it with an English dub, and the English dub is absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's really bad. It is so worth it to just listen to the original performances and read the subtitles.
Yeah. So that's my pick.
That reminds me, have any of you guys watched Squid Game yet? On
Yeah,
Netflix?
Not
yeah.
yet.
I haven't watched it.
I watched it with the English dub, but I also had the subtitles on because I usually watch subtitles on everything. The subtitles are horrible. The subtitles make no sense.
Really? Huh.
I mean, they don't even make sense in the conversations that they're having. So
yeah, I watched it with the dub. So
the dub is good. I mean, the dub is good. At least it makes sense. You know, I was able to watch the whole thing with the dub, and I didn't have a problem. So, but yeah, I recommend that show. That's a good show.
It's good. It's good.
Are you saying that the English subtitles don't match up with the English dubbing?
No, I'm saying that the English subtitles, I mean, it's not the same words, if that's what you mean. It's whoever did the translation for the subtitles is not the same person that did the translation for the dubs.
Gotcha.
I've
been seeing articles. Well, I think everyone's been seeing articles because Squid Game is like the new most popular thing on the face of the planet.
Yep.
but I'm seeing articles that are indicating that Koreans are letting English speakers know, yeah, if you're watching an English subtitled version of the Squid Game, you're not getting what you should.
It,
Mhm.
it,
The
it
people
almost
who-
feels
who-
like it was done by an AI, and it doesn't even feel like it was done by a person.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's just it's way out
Go-
there.
It may
Google
have been done
Translate.
by AI. I don't know.
All right, Virginia, what about you? What's a horror movie that you like?
I actually am not very prepared. I didn't expect to be here, so
Oh,
I
okay.
came to say hi and hang out with all. Like, yeah, I guess like was The Ring after 2000? That was pretty terrifying to me.
Yeah, that was like 2001 or 2, something like that. So yeah, it counts.
I mean, the original is like much scarier, of course, but I didn't sleep for a while after I saw that one.
I
so.
bet. Yeah.
I've never
Has-
seen the original Ringu, the Japanese
Ringu,
version. I've never
yeah.
seen that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the original American version, yeah, I enjoyed that movie. It terrified my wife though.
You know,
have I on this podcast told the story of when me and a group of friends all watched The Ring together?
are they all dead now?
Oh.
Did they die in 7 days?
That's rude.
No, you
Um,
haven't.
so it myself, my fiance, my at the time she was my fiance, she is now my first ex-wife. The two of us and about a half dozen other friends were all gathered together, and we turned all the lights out. We watched The Ring. Ooh. And we finished the movie, and it was a good movie, and it was creepy, and we were all unsettled. And since it was the DVD, it had the special feature of, if you select just the right thing, it will show you the content of the video that is the focus of the movie. Because in the movie, you're watching other people watch the video, but you don't really get to see the video like they do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
using this special feature, you can see the video as though you have it in your own machine. So we click on that, and everyone's watching it, and they're picking it apart, and everyone is just completely wrapped by it. And about halfway through that video, I see my friend Tony, who has done a few episodes of I'd Watch That for $1, and it was her house that we were watching it at. I saw her reach under her torso and sneakily pull out her cell phone.
Yeah.
I know what's coming now. She punches in a number, and then she just waits. She waits, and then that video ends, and she hits the send button, and the landline in the house starts ringing.
I did the same
My
thing to my wife's
fiance-
cousin.
My fiance, Rick, I'm stealing your thunder. My fiance flips the fuck out. She loses her mind. And I'm doing everything I can to contain myself and not laugh, because I know exactly what's happening.
Yeah,
It
we
was
did the
an
same thing.
Amazing time, and she was mad at me for 3 months. Because
wife
she
had,
felt embarrassed.
My wife had a couple of cousins that were teenagers at the time, and they had been watching it, and they didn't realize that was on the DVD. And I was like, the whole video is on the DVD where you can watch it and see all the images and stuff. So they started playing it, and it's only like 2 minutes long, something like that.
Mhm.
As they're
It's
playing
short.
it, I walk into the other room, and when it's over, I called the landline. My wife's cousin, like, "Oh no! Don't answer it! Don't answer it! Don't answer it!"
Wow. Okay.
You
All right.
see John's statement?
I saw something come up while we were talking.
It says, can we talk for a second about how listening to dubs is like the new gatekeeping? And yeah, I totally get that, because there are some people, it's along the same lines of, how dare you eat your food in a way I don't, or how dare you like that music. I generally prefer to watch something in another language with the subtitles so I can get the original performance, but I certainly don't fault anyone who wants to listen to the dubbed version.
Mhm.
But yeah, there are a lot of people, especially anime people, who are like, treat you as the worst kind of scum if you even hint at wanting to listen to the dubbed version of any of their shows.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I'll watch. I'll watch the original performance and I'll watch the titles, but there's a lot of times that I'm watching a movie that I can't sit and look at the screen the whole time.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and if you're doing that, then you're going to lose a large chunk of the story. My wife and I used to watch a show that several of the characters on the show were deaf.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so 50% of the show was done in ASL, and there were subtitles. But if you were like looking at your phone, or if you were working while you were watching it, there was half the show you weren't going to get it. And the performances were great because these were like teenagers, and they're deaf in real life, and and they give really good performances on the show. But if you're not going to sit and watch the screen, then there's no sense in watching it at all. But
John says, I've been hearing / reading a lot of, quote, real moviegoers listen to the original audio, unquote. Maybe, but don't be an a-hole about it. I get that translations suck, but like you, Sean, I always have captions on. If you have a hard time reading the text and watching the performance, so be it. If you want to say, quote, the dub is meh, but the subtitles are better, unquote, that's great. But let others watch subs or dubs as they see fit.
Yeah. Like I personally prefer the subtitled versions, except for Cowboy Bebop. I will only watch that dub, but most everything else I tend to watch subtitled because I like hearing the original language. Squid, that was one of the first ones where I was told going into it, oh, you need to listen to it you watch it with the dub, and it's fine. I'm like, okay, and I was fine with it. It was just I'm not saying I'm a, what's the best word to say? Like I have to watch it this way or this way. But I prefer subtitled. I mean, everybody has their own thing and I don't judge them for it. It's whatever.
Well, like the new Star Wars cartoons, the new Star Wars shorts, Star Wars Visions.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there is a subtitled, you can watch them subtitled.
Yeah.
But I also know that the voice talent they got for dubbing them is all A-listers. So I had no problem watching them with the dubs.
Yeah, purist. Thank you, John. Yeah, I'm not a purist in one way or another. I mean, whatever you want to, if you want to watch them all dubbed, go for it. I don't mind.
all right, Scott, what about you? What's your first one?
Well, I'm not going to say that it's necessarily the best or one of the best, but I did pick this one partially because it's the earliest one on my list. I just went to my own media library and I searched by genre. So everything that's considered a horror movie in my library came up. And I sorted it by year. And one of the first in the year 2000 seemed like a reasonable and appropriate pick. Not because I love this movie and I like watching it all the time, but it is, when it comes in terms of the genre, it is fairly important. And that would be from the year 2000, Saw.
The original Saw. Yep. I actually like the original Saw.
Brutal.
Now, Sean had mentioned, how torture porn is kind of like, the thing these days, or at least it was that for a while. And I will agree with that. I don't necessarily blame Saw for that.
Mm-mm.
But the people who tried to copy Saw, and they leaned on the grisly violence and the discomfort more than trying to make a halfway decent story around it. And unfortunately, that's what the series became, is just ridiculous death traps and threadbare story to try to tie those traps together. But the first film in the series, there was a cleverness to it. There was thought put into it, and yes, the death traps were disturbing, as they were meant to be. Excuse me, but they weren't so outlandish as to make it seem like they had gone back in time and made these in the 90s just with advanced special effects.
Mhm.
Yeah.
By the time you get to like Saw 5, 6, now you're just silly. Now you're almost a parody of yourself with the traps that they made. But in that first one, simpler traps, they took the time and the effects budget to really get into the detail of the violence, and that's really what got under people's skin, is not the trap itself, but how closely and how carefully they got to showing us the traps that were in the movie.
Mhm.
Real shudder inducing. And Carrie Elwes is always the delight to watch. So the first Saw, and probably the only one that I would want to go back and watch again. And I recently watched the entire series front to back, including Spiral. I don't feel the need to go back and watch any of them except for the first one.
Yeah, they really got confusing, especially with the timeline, because they're like, oh, this one takes place before the last one, and this one, oh, we got you. This one takes place at the same time as the other one. You know.
Yeah. Hey, I hope you enjoyed Saw 4. Guess what? It happened at the exact same time of the last one that you watched. Whoa, did we blow your mind?
Yeah, we know we left that last one with the cliffhanger with the little girl missing, but the next movie, we're not going to pick that up. You're going to have to wait another movie for that one.
Yep.
Yeah, but that
Makes me
first one
glad
is
I've only
is
saw the
classic.
first one, because yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So.
yeah.
I will never watch any of those movies.
The first one's not nearly as graphic as the others, trust me.
Doesn't matter. I will never watch any of those movies.
Virginia, you can go online and just read like Wikipedia synopses of the rest of the series, and you'll be fine.
Awesome.
All right, Rick, what's one that you will watch?
I've got a lot more than most people would think. I mean, it is well known that I am incredibly squeamish when it comes to horror films. So and it's funny because some people just don't understand what that means, because they'll be like, oh, you know, this one's not that gory. And I'm like, it's not the gore that gets me. Like there's a movie I would be shocked if this movie was on any of y'all's lists. It's not on mine. I'm just using it as an example. There's a movie called Martyrs that the description of it fucked me up for months. And I didn't drop a single F-bomb during that Star Trek show tonight. So it doesn't have to be a well-made movie. It doesn't have to be the effects. It doesn't matter how good or bad the effects are. It's the concepts that get in my head and mess with me. And movies that could happen, like slasher movies, torture porn, all of that stuff, where it's could be real people doing stuff to real people. That's the line I cannot cross. And so I will never watch a Saw movie. I don't care how bad the plot is. I don't care how good the story is. That is a movie I cannot watch and expect to be able to sleep without massive amounts of drugs for the rest of my life. I'm already there. So, but I'm glad you said Let the Right One In, because that was on my list too. In the same vein, is a wonderful movie starring Tilda Swinton and Tom
I know which one
Hiddleston
it is.
called Only Lovers Left Alive.
I love that movie.
It is a beautiful
Yeah.
movie. The premise is you've got these two vampires who have been alive for so long that they're just sick of it. And it's a study on how they both cope with the utter boredom of immortality.
Mhm, mhm.
And that is just the bare bones of this wonderful movie. And I'm not going to go into any more details about it, but Tilda Swinton is incredible anyway, in anything she does. And this is absolutely no exception. And I have a huge man crush on Tom Hiddleston. So, this was like at the peak of his popularity. And so I saw everything he put out for, and he's amazing in this too.
Isn't he at the peak of his popularity now?
Not really. Now he's
He's-
kind of faded
He's
back to
kind of
just being Loki.
no, because Loki is out, so he.
I know
yeah.
he just did a whole Disney series
But-
where he was the star.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's only doing Loki now.
Yeah.
There were these couple of years where he was doing a whole bunch of different stuff. Now, I mean, he's still popular, but now he's just kind of back to being Loki and not doing a whole lot of anything else. That's, that I'm not saying his career is tanked or anything, but
Yeah, he's still popular and he's still doing good work as Loki, but he is not setting the internet on fire every time he yawns
yeah,
Good
like
point.
he was doing a couple of years ago.
or
He-
dances, which
Oh, gee, he was
that made me feel like climbing the rope in gym class.
like climbing the rope.
Oh
and
my
jig that.
gosh! Wow. Okay.
I
Yes, that
would
movie
hop the
is-
fence for him in a second. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
wow. Okay. Yeah, John, that movie is relatively recent. It came out not too long. Rick. It was what 2018 when it
Only
came out.
lovers left alive.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it. It's okay. It's recent. You have to every time I talk about how something that happened in the past, I have to remember to add a year for the year that didn't happen. So yeah, I think it was 17 or 18, something like that.
2013.
Oh,
That long
gosh.
ago.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh wow. Okay.
Which is funny because the recent, What We Do in the Shadows TV show, the first season, they had a scene where they had actors who had been vampires and other things show up for this one scene, and Tilda Swinton was one of them, and she was playing her character from this movie.
I was so bummed about the what we do, and I guess What We Do in the Shadows is on my list, but I guess I wanted to love the series, I really
Mhm.
did, and it just didn't. Maybe it's just because it's on Hulu and I have to deal with the commercials. What?
Well, you don't have to deal with the commercials.
Well, we have it bundled with Disney, and it's a
gotcha.
whole
Yeah, yeah,
hassle
yeah.
to.
Mhm.
John? What are you damning me for?
Because you were
Because of
talking
your
about
attraction
climbing the rope.
to
Climbing the rope in gym
Oh,
class.
okay.
You're a bit about jumping the fence.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I loved what We Do in the Shadows, the movie. It's
Fiddlebone.
brilliant. Yeah, Fiddlebone. Watch the night
The Night Manager.
Night
Oh,
Manager.
yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Um,
The first one on my list is American Psycho from 2000.
Was that far? Wow, that was
Yeah.
that long ago. Holy
2000.
cow.
Yeah.
That was more of a thriller, but okay.
What if Norman Bates was not a reclusive hotel owner in the middle of nowhere? What if he was a yuppie on Wall Street in the 80s? This movie had Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman, and it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't really a horror film made for horror lovers. It was more of a satire on the excess of the Reagan era.
Yep.
You've got a guy that can have any woman, he has any amount of money, he can have any drug with the snap of a finger. And what do you do to get some excitement? Well, Patrick Bateman starts killing people.
Mhm.
And this movie is so psychological that at the end of it, you don't really know for sure if it's really happening or if it's all in his mind,
Mhm.
or if the kills really did happen, but he sees himself differently than reality. Like there's a scene where he shoots a car with a pistol and the car explodes in a huge fireball. Well, cars don't do that when you shoot them with a gun, so it's like, is this stuff actually happening the way that we're seeing it, or is this just what he sees? But there is like this absurd nature to it. Like there's a scene where he's laying down plastic and preparing to kill somebody while they're just sitting there and sipping champagne, oblivious.
Jared Leto.
Yeah, to what's about to happen. And then you got the quotable lines like, "Hey, do you like Huey Lewis in the news?" But it's got good performances. It was the first movie that I remember seeing Christian Bale in.
Really?
And
Wow.
the next movie that I saw him in was Shaft. So it was a big departure. There's a big difference there. And then and of course it was
Some
way
of y'all
before he was
didn't watch Newsies in the theater.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I saw Newsies. We watched that repeatedly.
You
in
didn't
school.
watch Empire of the Sun? Come on,
I
man.
did sleep on that one. That was my fault.
I watched this afternoon. I actually watched a movie because I was watching it because Now Playing is going to do a retrospective on it this week, and I wanted to watch it for that. But they're reviewing American Psycho 2, All American Girl.
That one's
And
awful.
it
Oh,
Was horrible, and
it's
the
horrible.
the problem was that it was written and 95% shot to be its own movie and not have anything to do with American Psycho. And then some executive decided, hey, we can add a scene at the beginning and throw a couple lines in here, and we can make this like a sequel to this other movie, you know, that American Psycho, whatever. And so it's got Mila Kunis in it and William Shatner, and it was bad.
So it was the Cloverleaf paradox, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cloverfield.
Cloverleaf?
Cloverfield, yeah.
Cloverfield.
Did I say leaf?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am more tired than I thought.
Wow.
Either way,
Which is
I was
Just-
going to
just
mention
as
that
bad.
too. You beat me to it.
Mm.
Just as
Just
bad.
like that
so.
terrible science fiction movie that they tacked Cloverfield onto.
Yeah.
That was the Cloverfield paradox. Now,
Yeah.
I didn't put it on my list, but 10 Cloverfield Lane is a good movie.
Yeah. I
It is
agree.
a really good movie, and
Mhm.
it doesn't really tie into Cloverfield until the last 10 minutes of it or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, and it's a good suspense thriller. I mean, it would work in this list. So, all right, Jim, what's next on your list?
Well, technically, this movie came out in '99 in Japan, but it came out in America in 2000. So does that count?
I'll allow it.
Okay. All right. And this one is a doozy. It's called Audition.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. You want to talk? This was way before torture porn. I know Boz hates that term. Was a thing, but this is a movie. Essentially, okay. The general plot is a widower is looking for a new bride, and this is Japan. Okay, so he does these auditions, making these young women think it's for a acting role, but it's actually to become his new fiance. And this one girl he picks, he's like, she's the perfect girl, and she's awesome, and she's beautiful, and everything else. And it turns out she's a fucking psychopath. She does all this torture stuff to him, and there's this one scene in particular that does make me cringe to this day, because body horror is not really my thing. I watched it on a dare, let's put it that way, where there's a scene where she's putting acupuncture needles on this guy, and he's got so many in him that he can't move. And there's a scene where she takes one of them and puts it in his eyeball, and she's going chee, 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 chee. It's a messed up film. There's another scene that I can't talk about because it would spoil, but it's pretty disturbing, where it involves one of her ex-boyfriends. Yeah, it's I mean, it's to this day, I would say it's not, I mean, it's pretty messed up, but it's probably one of the best Japanese horror films outside of Ringu that I've watched. So there you go.
Okay. All right, John. I mean, I skipped you. You had some that you wanted to.
He's just going to list titles. Okay.
Oh, he's gonna list some titles and he wants us to name them.
Okay.
Okay, John.
Type faster. Type faster.
Okay. Cabin in the Woods. That was on my list. Yep.
Okay.
Never saw it.
Hey, you just gonna do one at a time? Okay, Cabin in the Woods. You can do the next one on your next turn. All right, Virginia, you want to Oh, Cabin in the Woods. I've never seen.
I think this.
He wants
I
us
think
to
this is
talk
the part
about
where
it.
John
I've
wants
never
us
seen
to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. Cabin in the Woods. Yeah, I love this movie. It was on my list too. It's a movie that makes fun of other horror films in a way.
It's very smart, very meta.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And
kind
it
of like
has-
that Bill and Dale Fight Evil or whatever that one
Tuck
was.
and Dale versus you.
I started watching it and realized that it was, it's a satire of other horror movies, and since that's not something I watch, I wasn't getting most of it. So
Well, they go to the point that they actually get all these teenagers to go out to this cabin, like in Evil Dead or whatever, and hijinks ensue, and they purposely make them horny, and they do the tropes in the movie as a thing because there's a meta plot involved that they're doing it for a reason. Let's put it that way.
I know what the reason is. I've had the ending spoiled, but just that's
Yeah.
Okay.
It's full of Easter eggs. It's a lot of fun to go back and watch it a couple times and see all the things that you missed. The ways in which they reference, do a nod, hang a lantern on, and then plow straight through
Mhm.
so many of these tropes that you see in so many horror films. I found it to be very well done.
Mhm.
It's yet another good piece of work that I have to push through my current feelings about Joss Whedon in order to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah.
it's made a bit easier by the inclusion and presence of youngster Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, this was before he got really, really,
A
like
pre-Thor
pre-Thor
Chris Hemsworth
Chris
is fun to
Hemsworth.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, John
As
said it's
John
one of the
says-
reasons that people loved Whedon before they found out why they should hate Whedon.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay. Virginia, you have another one?
Well, I was thinking, I'm sitting here trying to think of horror movies I've seen in the last 20 years, and I think I remember watching them, but I don't remember what they're about for like the sake of my own sanity and being able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So like 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week when I talked to you, I had just seen The Conjuring. Really great movie. Couldn't tell you how it ended. Just
Oh.
like, I'm gonna block that from my mind because I'm staying at home by myself. Don't need to be thinking about that. So The Conjuring was really great. I couldn't tell you how it ended though, but I remember it was a family of 7 people being terrorized by like some paranormal something. So in come the 70s paranormal investigators to try to figure it out. Then they get haunted too. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. The Conjuring movies are really good as long as you don't read the actual history of Frank and Lorraine Warren.
they're
Because and
Really?
they're the stuff that happens in those movies did not happen the way that they actually happened. I think in that movie, in the first one, there's a whole deal where the mom tries to kill her children or something like that. That never happened. They just put that in there to
Yeah.
and plus the real Annabelle did not look the real Annabelle was a Raggedy Ann doll. It was not a porcelain doll with scars and scratches all over it and all that kind of stuff.
See, I didn't realize this was based on a true story or whatever. Like,
Well,
yeah.
Frank and Lorraine Warren were real people. And I
Mhm.
think Lorraine
Oh.
Warren, I think she's still alive.
no, they're both gone.
They're both gone. Okay. Well, they went around, they worked with the church going around and doing like exorcisms and stuff like that. And they were shysters. They were just, they were just making money off of people, but doing it all to sell books and stuff like that. But
If you listen to the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, they had some dealings with them and went to see Frank outlived Lorraine, and he had a museum of the paranormal, and it was all bullshit. Anytime they tried to get him to let them test something or whatever, like no you can't,
The
or-
paranormal is bullshit. How dare you?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
all right, Scott, what you got next?
Next up is what I would assume is a bit of a lesser known film. Probably not as many people are going to remember this, but it was a pretty good, especially for 2007, a pretty good comic book to screen adaptation. And it was nice to see them do something besides superheroes for that. And that would be the 2007 film 30 Days of Night
Oh yeah.
with Josh Hartnett.
Mhm.
What I always thought was a super, super inventive plot line.
Mhm.
Is it anyone not familiar with the plot?
It's vampires up in the above the Arctic Circle where they don't
Yes.
have to go to bed at night because the sun
Yeah,
doesn't come
30
up.
days. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Taking place in Barrow, Alaska, where night lasts for 30 days. And vampires say, you know what? If we go to this place and we have all month long where we can just go buck wild, and they do. Blood everywhere.
Until you run
Um,
out of people, and then I mean, you kind of you've lost your food supply at some point.
Yeah, well, when you run out of people, then they've got full bellies, and they had a nice party, a nice little bloody Rumspringa, and then back to whatever vampire holes they go.
Yeah, and these were not seductive vampires. These were ravenous looking vampires in this film.
Monster vampires with mouths full of needle teeth and no English language, just a
Yeah, they did hissing a lot, and it was weird.
Yeah, I haven't been able. I mean, I love vampire movies, as has been evidenced by the majority of my movie picks, but that one has me hesitant. I haven't. Seems to be almost more werewolfish vampires than.
Kind of.
I mean, they
Yeah.
don't transform. I get that, but it seems much more vulgar than the vampire films I tend to gravitate towards.
Well, I don't know about vulgar. I mean, violent, sure. More visceral, yeah. More violent, a bit bloodier, yeah. They're like I said, the vampires are more monstrous, more beastly vampires, monsters in human form,
Yeah.
and not.
Yeah,
so
John
much,
said they're not romantic.
Yeah,
No.
not very romantic vampires. It's more. My brain is too slow to come up with a good analogy.
Less Anne Rice, more Bram Stoker.
Well,
No,
yeah,
not even that. No.
I was gonna say less Tom Cruise and more, but I couldn't find another Tom that was less Tom Cruise, more Tom Bundy. That's not a real person. Yes, less cerebral, more visceral. Thank
There
you,
you
John.
go. There you go.
That spells it out pretty well. I feel bad about this. I still have not watched the sequel. I read the sequel, but I haven't watched the sequel. So one of these days we'll see how that one goes. But the first movie, it was a good watch. That was certainly not a waste of time. And I would recommend people give it a go, because 30 Days of Vampires Running Wild. Why didn't I think of that? That's constantly what I was thinking when I read the comic and when I saw the movie.
All right. Rick, what's the next one on your list?
All right. You remember when we did movies or actors who will get you to watch a movie? And I said I don't have any.
Yeah.
Except Tom Hiddleston, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
I have a couple. And this is another one that, at least for a while, anyway. Karen Gillan
Oh, I love
was
her.
in a movie, and yeah, I adore her. She's like the only. She's one of two celebrities I follow on Instagram. Her and Jerry Ryan, and she was in a horror film, and I didn't write down any of these dates. I should have. Called Oculus.
Yep.
Which is wonderful, and Katie Sackhoff's in it too. It's the premise is the father of this family buys basically a haunted mirror and brings it into the house, and everybody's life goes to hell, kind of literally. And I don't want to, I can't really go into too much more detail because it's really a mind bleep of a movie. It twists reality. There's some really gruesome scenes in it. But Karen Gillan is wonderful. Katie Sackhoff is amazing because she's the mother who's chained in the bedroom because the main thing that this haunted mirror does is drive the father insane. And but one of the things, this was like one of Sakhoff's first big things after Battlestar Galactica. And while Starbuck wasn't exactly, a sex symbol or anything, Katie Sackhoff is not an unattractive lady by any stretch, but she plays ugly in this movie.
Oh,
and you just like, so it's like when Charlize Theron, who is like cover girl gorgeous, does a role where she's just gets all beat up and broken nose and stuff, and it's just like, wow. Because a lot of times Hollywood people don't want to be ugly on screen, but Sackhoff has no fear. She's amazing. It's an amazing movie.
Mhm.
And it's creepy, it's atmospheric, and you may or may not see the ending coming. I don't know. My experience with movies like this is so limited that I didn't see the end coming. Your mileage might vary, but I really loved Oculus a lot.
And there's actually a Bollywood remake of it called Dobayara, and it came out a couple years after the original. And it's actually, the script is by the guy who did Oculus.
I can't imagine
he was a consultant.
song numbers.
No, there was not. No, their horror movie. A lot of their horror movies do not have song and dance numbers in it. So this was not quite a shot-to-shot remake of Oculus, but I like both. It's called Dobayara, and essentially it's obviously with Bollywood actors in Hindi, and if you can, again, subtitles. It's since they got the screenwriter from Oculus to help with the remake, it's pretty close, and it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
They filmed it here in Alabama.
They did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oculus or the Bollywood version?
No.
Not the Bollywood version.
No, Oculus. Yeah. Okay. The next one on my list is Midsommar. Or Midsommar.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really rare that I'll watch a horror movie that sticks with me, because I'm usually the guy that can look past a movie and see the corn syrup, But Midsommar really gave me a gut punch in the first 30 minutes, and then several shots to the groin after that. So it's so strange, because the movie is beautiful. It takes place in like the Swedish countryside, this village way out that I won't even try to pronounce the name of the village, but it's a Swedish village, and the landscapes, they really know how to shoot landscapes. And it's really weird to see a horror movie like this take place like in bright sunlight, But the plot is that there's these college students that they're going with one of their friends that's from this Swedish village. They go home with him to witness the Midsummer Festival, and one of them's going to write a paper about it and all this kind of stuff. And then things take a horrible turn once they get there. But I won't lie, it is deeply unsettling, and it's a very long movie too. It's like 2.5 hours, which is unheard of for a horror movie, really. The death scenes are very realistic, but the story is so interesting that you find yourself intrigued by it. So I like the movie. I probably won't ever watch it again. The one time is enough. But yeah, I recommend it. It's a good movie. It's gonna stick with you when you watch it. So
everybody I know that likes horror has raved about this movie. So I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I will never watch it.
And no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't suggest you watch it.
No.
But it is. I mean, it's a beautifully shot movie. All of the performances are great. The writing's great, and everything. It's just, when somebody dies, they make sure you know it and you see it, and it's pretty realistic. There's some of those shots, I don't know how they did them, because it looked like they couldn't shoot them without killing somebody. But all right, John, what's the next one on your list you want us to talk about? Get Out.
Oh, that was my next one. Darn it. Okay.
Yeah. He says it's another one that
okay.
knows that the audience and the characters are aware of horror movies, and the writing reflects that slight horror genre veneer to tell how slavery was in fact a real life horror movie. that nice, normal people committed on millions of people for hundreds of years, perfectly written, acted, and directed. Yeah, Get Out's a great movie. I really liked it. But yeah, there's a lot of symbolism in that movie, because I mean, the white people are doing bad things to the black people. That's what the movie is about, you know. And
and who would have thought Jordan Peele could pull off? I mean, he had been known mainly as a comedy actor at this point, and then he did this, and everyone was like, "Whoa," you know.
Yeah,
he blew everyone away with his surprise turn as, you know, incredible funny man turned really outstanding tight director of a I don't know if you can really call it a horror film, but of a character driven thriller that is exactly the right amount of uncomfortable and disturbing.
Yeah. Sinking to the floor.
And
I have not been able to work up the courage to watch it.
It's not bad. It's not bad. As far as like body horror or anything.
Well, first, I want to ask Rick, what is it? Just based on like the trailers, or what you know of it.
It's not the trailers. I don't know anything about it. I have purposely avoided. Well, hang on. I purposely avoided anything about the story in case I do finally get up to watch it. But everybody I know that loves horror films has said this is a great horror film, which usually indicates I'm not going to be able to make it through the movie without severe emotional distress.
No, I don't think you'll have a problem with this one, because it's not scary, and there's not any concepts in it that are just so twisted that it's going to leave you thinking. I mean, there are, I mean, it's going to leave you thinking because of the symbolism that's there. But it's more thinking about racism and stuff like that than it is thinking about, God, that was really twisted, you know. But
John is hitting the nail on the head with his comments here, especially with You Can Watch It. John knows how to cut right to the core of it. I think John has a good handle on what works and doesn't work for you, Rick. And
yeah, he does.
And I agree with him 100%. I do not think you're going to regret watching this.
No,
one.
you'll enjoy it.
Now, his follow-up film, Us, I don't think you should watch that one.
I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah, I liked it, but yeah. Okay, Jen, what's your next one?
Okay, I don't normally like zombie films. Similar to with Rick, it's like anything that's any type of realistic body, whatever. And zombies are in that category. But there are a handful of zombie films that I do enjoy, mostly the comedy ones. This one is not, though. 28 Days Later. It came out in 2002. Yeah. Which this is one of those, since we're talking about a pandemic, it's a virus. This is zombieism transmitted through a virus.
Rage.
It doesn't count as a zombie movie. It's a rage virus.
Well, they say it's technically a zombie film, but
that's how the doctor describes it right at the beginning. They ask, well, what are they infected with? Just a slow turn to the camera. Rage.
Rage. Yeah. Well, they had to. I mean, this was actually the very first film I ever saw Cillian Murphy in, and it's. I mean, the very first scene, he wakes up and like London is completely gone. Like he's just walking around London and like nobody's there. It's creepy as hell. But then you start seeing the actual infected, and they're essentially fast. Since you can't say zombie, they're fast infected, and it's pretty out there, and I enjoy it. It's because it's a different type of zombie movie, and it's not, their limbs fall off and blah 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 blah. It's just fast, scary, fast people coming at you.
Yeah. That's the way they make zombie movies now. I mean, other than The Walking Dead, most of the movies that come out that are zombie movies, it's going to be those fast running zombies. Even the
Yeah, it's
remake of
because
Dawn of the
this
Dead.
yeah, it's because of this and the remake of Dawn of the Dead that the fast zombies are now a thing.
You know, I don't
Um,
find like I watched the remake of of Dawn of the Dead. Because I had seen the original back in 1982, 83. Scared the pants off me. It's not a good movie. It's not, I mean, that'll tell you right there. The effects in the original Dawn of the Dead are terrible, you know, because they had like $20 for a budget. But I have found, as much of a wuss as I am when it comes to this stuff, fast zombies aren't scary. They're just angry people.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the slow moving, you know, rotting zombie. One
Let
isn't a
that go
problem. You know, one isn't a problem. 4 isn't a problem. But when you got 45 of them cornering you, and you know, and they're all, you know, lumbering towards you slowly, and body parts are, that's scary to me. The fast zombie thing to me isn't scary. It's I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to be there, but it's you know, it might as well just be an angry mob. It's not particularly special or whatever.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about the fast zombies either. But I mean, 28 Days Later was a good movie because the one scene where the guy looks up and the drop of blood falls into his eye. And
that was
turns into a zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Domhnall Gleeson, I think, who that happened to.
No,
Yeah.
Brendan.
Brendan Free. Oh, Domhnall's the son. Okay.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson.
I
Thank you.
just realized what I was trying to think of. I was like, I recently saw a zombie movie that wasn't too bad, but I can't mention it because, Scott, you're going to be releasing a podcast about it in the not too distant future.
Okay.
Okay.
Virginia, you have another movie? No?
No.
Okay. All right.
I
Scott,
do not know.
Is it that one? Excuse me. That caught me off guard because Get Out was the next one on my list too. But there we go. That's right. I had backup. All right, from 2016, written by, it was at least written or at least co-written by Guardians of the Galaxy writer director James Gunn. This would be the Belko Experiment.
Oh, I've never heard of this. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard of this one.
No one's heard of the Belko Experiment. All right, bring it up so I can give you some names here. Directed by Greg McLean. My app is going slow, so it's not giving me the stars. I know that is it Ted McGinley, guy from Scrubs, dude from Scrubs.
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Mongo, not no.
It's not
John
Ted
C.
McGinley. Ted
Yeah, that's
McGinley
right.
is from Happy Days.
That's right. John C. McGinley.
Yeah.
Tony Goldwyn
Mm-hmm.
from Ghost, and John Gallagher, and he's not in as much as I would expect someone of his talent. John Gallagher is really good. Anyone who watched The Newsroom, he played Jim. Did a great job on that show. This film, The Belko Experiment, it takes place, I can't remember what country it takes place in, but it's an office building for an American company that is operating this facility. I think it's in South America, and for
Colombia.
reasons
Bogota, Colombia. Yeah.
and
Bogota, excuse me.
Bogota.
Yeah. Bogota.
We're gonna do a biopic in Bogota.
It's located in Colombia. John says, "Is that the Midnight Mass guy?" And I do not know because I haven't seen Midnight Mass. But everyone in this office building, they're going about their workaday lives with their interpersonal relationships, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, metal shutters come down on all the windows in the building, and all the doors lock, and everyone is trapped inside. And then they begin receiving instructions over the PA system. There are this many people in the building. In 30 minutes, that number must be decreased to this many. And if that doesn't happen, we will kill this many. And then just let it go. So now you have people who just, want to try to get around this deadly game and escape, and others who are like, well, they got us over a barrel. We just got to start killing folk to follow these rules.
Is there a motivation for this?
You'll find out by the end. It's a mystery to
I
the
mean,
viewer
it's an
and to the
experiment.
characters.
It's the Belko
That title
experiment.
does kind of lean into that a little bit with being the
all right,
experiment, but it's the kind of film where there's a lot of, it's over the top violence almost to the point of being comedic. So imagine James Gunn but not having to be family friendly in a Marvel Studios sense.
All right. What's the next one on your list there, Rick?
Movie about never mind. Okay. I want to give a quick shout out because if Boz listens to this, we've already brought Boz up once. One of the best movies. All right. It's a zombie movie, which, like Jen said earlier, I don't like zombie movies. I am so done with the zombie genre. But there is a hilarious horror comedy zombie rock and roll movie called Deathgasm.
Yes, I love this movie.
That is freaking awesome.
It's great. Oh
and
yeah.
And Deathgasm it's all in caps. And it's about this death metal band that are, they're like a garage death metal band. And like the lead singer, you have seen memes from this movie and don't know it.
Mhm.
There's a meme where there's this dude in full death metal makeup and studs and black leather and the white face and the upside down crosses and stuff, sitting next to a prim and proper, almost Olivia Newton-John and Grease looking girl, and they're eating ice cream on a park bench. That's what that move. That's from Deathgasm. And it's this little town in somewhere, and I can't remember the exact details of how it starts, but a demonic force gets released in the town and starts creating zombies, and it's really gross in some points, but it's like hilarious gross. Like, one dude like absolutely just kills a zombie with a giant dildo.
Yeah,
It's that
great,
level
yeah.
of humor. And it's it's kind of like the spiritual successor to movies like An American Werewolf in London, where the concepts are funny, but the effects are gross as hell and very realistic. And it's hilarious. It's disturbing. And I cannot, if you are a fan of horror, especially if you're a fan of zombie horror and just, over the top bloody horror, Deathgasm is a must watch.
Mhm.
And Bob's
Right,
would never
yeah.
forgive me if I was on a horror movie retrospective and I didn't mention Deathgasm, because it's his favorite movie. And he's the one that got me to watch it. And if getting me to watch a horror movie is not always easy, and getting me to watch a zombie movie is even harder. And I love this movie. It's
Mhm.
fantastic.
It's great. Yeah.
I have to check it out. I've never heard of it, but
No, it's
I-
great.
and
Yeah.
I like zombie movies. So, all right, the next one on my
Yeah,
list.
yeah, just no kids. No kids can be around at
Oh,
all.
no. I watch stuff like that by myself because my wife hates it anyway. So,
Yeah. Oh, Sherry will not like this movie.
Yeah.
At all.
the next one on my list is Freaky from 2020,
Mm.
and this will lighten things up a bit because I'm turning to a Blumhouse film, and Blumhouse, you know, I like most of their movies, and some of them are serious and some of them are more comical, but this is one of their comedy takes, I guess. It's one of those horror comedy hybrids that's becoming more and more popular over the last several years. So Vince Vaughn plays this Jason-esque serial killer, and the movie pretty much starts out with it's like a standard take on a slasher. It's got all the tropes and whatnot. He even wears a hockey mask. You know, it doesn't look exactly like the Jason mask, but it's a hockey mask. And you know, he's killing teenagers and stuff. And he's at this house, and they have a dagger that's like in a glass case, like it's a collector's item. Well, he grabs that dagger. The next person that he kills with it, it's like this ancient artifact, and it causes him to swap bodies with this teenage girl. So the rest of the movie, you've got Vince Vaughn pretending to be a teenage girl, and he's running from a serial killer that is a teenage girl, you know, and but she's like a mindless killing zombie man, you know. So it's really funny, while at the same time it's got some suspense and dark overtones and stuff. I think it's a really good choice for Halloween. If you want something that's a little lighter and it's funny, go with that. It's along the same lines of Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day, they've been saying, is possibly in the same universe as this film, and we may have a crossover at some point between those two movies. But yeah, I recommend.
Did you see John's comment?
Yeah. John just mentioned it.
Haven't gotten to it yet. No. Yeah, Happy Death Day. Yeah, Happy Death Day. I really enjoyed Happy Death Day. Like I said, it's one of those movies that's it's a comedy horror hybrid. You know, it's really funny, but it's also got those horror elements. And the second one is a little more. It's got a little bit of sci-fi mixed in with it. People want to call out. They want to say, "Oh, they're just doing Groundhog Day." Do you know how many repeating timeline movies there are besides Groundhog Day? That's not the only one. And they even call out Happy Death Day. They even call out Groundhog Day. They say, "Oh, it's like Groundhog Day." And she's like, "What's Groundhog Day? I've never seen that." You know.
Wow.
But yeah, it's
I've never seen it either. So
No. Wow.
you never seen Groundhog Day, really?
Nope.
Well, it's not.
You've
And
heard
it's
of the
not a-
concept,
it's
though,
not
right?
on purpose. It's just I just never have.
Well, you've heard of
It
the
does-
concept of it, right, Rick?
Yeah, I know what it's about, and it just doesn't. I don't. It's not like, oh my god, I'll never watch it. It's just it doesn't interest me enough to go out of my way to watch it.
It's a cute film. Yeah.
I think it has enough going for it. And this is coming from someone who, I know this might be a little bit of sacrilege, never been the biggest Bill Murray fan.
Me either.
He
Me
does
either.
well, but I just am never compelled to go and see the stuff that he's in. He just happens to be in a couple of movies that I really enjoy. For example, Groundhog Day. It's very good. Ghostbusters. I love it. And I love his work in it. But
And Scrooge. I like him in Scrooge.
I've never
fair,
seen him do
fair.
something I didn't like, but I also know he's one of those people that it's like you hear tons of stories about him just like wandering into somebody's life and doing something really cool, and then you find out there's another story about him being an absolute dick to somebody. It's like, he's a person. He's but
Yeah.
I generally like his comedy. It's not like Dan Aykroyd, who, some of the stuff Dan Aykroyd does or did was just like, what the? Although I did enjoy Nothing But Trouble, which I'm like one of 5 people that did.
Fair enough.
You can probably find 2 people out there, and one of them will tell you I'm a really nice guy, and another one will tell you that I'm a dick too. So
Yeah.
All right. Let's go
John,
around.
was that wow because of Nothing But Trouble?
But
Probably.
John says,
oh,
All right.
one last
thought you
round.
meant to-
Okay.
All right, let's go around one more time. Jim,
Okay.
what's your last one?
Well, we got John to go before me, so
Oh, John, what's your last one?
And John, Nothing But Trouble. I
Paging
will not in
John,
any way say it's a
paging
good
John.
movie, but
Oh, it was
Oh,
Happy
Happy
Death
Death
Day.
Day.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, gotcha.
it,
All
it,
right.
it appealed to my enjoyment of absurdism, and it was just so weird that it just I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I wouldn't tell anyone to watch Nothing But Trouble because it is a very messed up movie, but it hit me in just the right way that I enjoyed it.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
it's a deeply disturbing film. It should never
Yeah.
have been made.
Yeah.
All right, Jen, go ahead.
Okay, this is a film that most people probably have not heard of. It came out in 2015. It came out, I believe, after because it has Anton Yelchin in it, and I think it came out after his passing. It was the last film he was in. It's called Green Room.
Yep.
I don't know if any of you have heard.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. You guys have heard of it. It's
No.
basically.
He has heard of it.
Man,
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, Patrick
It's-
Stewart and
Yes. Anton Yelchin in the same movie. Yeah.
I did not hear of this movie.
How did I not hear of this movie?
Okay, it's basically Anton Yelchin is part of a punk band. And
Oh wait,
they-
yes, they get stuck in the green room, and oh yes, I did hear about that. I never got around. I never got to see it. Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
it's
but-
gonna make you squirm in your seat.
Yeah, because it basically is our perspective of it is from the green room, and then basically stuff that comes into the green room and them reacting to it. That's essential. It's one of those you could do it as a one act play type of scenarios, but you never see what's outside the green room once they're in there. And that's where the suspense comes in. And it's technically a thriller. I wouldn't say it's really a horror film per se. It's more of a, oh crap, stuff is coming into the room and they have to fight it. It gets pretty graphic in some parts.
Yeah, there are some horrific elements. They make some, let's say, effective and creative use of shotguns in this movie.
Yep.
Yeah, no spoil. I had
Yeah.
totally forgotten about this movie. I do want to see it.
Yeah.
And I
but-
forgot about
Patrick Stewart is one of the villains. He plays one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
It's a really weird
it's-
turn for him.
And it's not really kept a secret. No, that's not a spoiler. It's pretty clear from Jump Street
Mhm.
that it essentially, you know who your main characters are at the beginning of the movie, and it's made pretty clear from that point. If it's not a main character, it's a bad guy.
Yeah, and he plays a real asshole in this. It's very not,
It
Hard
like
at
an
all.
R-rated Airheads.
no. No.
No,
I wouldn't describe it that way. No.
Okay.
If you have
it-
Showtime, it's on Showtime now. So
Oh, it is? Okay.
yeah.
Probably for October, but it was very low budget considering they filmed it mainly in one area. But yeah, this was I want to say it was one of, if not the last film that Anton Yelchin made before he died. And it's totally worth a watch. It's if you get there are some elements that Ricky may not be into.
We'll say it's going to get intense.
Yeah.
And at times quite claustrophobic, but
I
well worth it.
I read
Everyone
the
who's
I
in
read
it
the
gives
write up on it, and
110.
it does not
Mhm.
sound like a movie that I would not that I would hate. I
Okay,
definitely
I
want
mean-
to see it. I just forgot it existed.
Fair enough, but it's a good film. It's a very good film for the fact that it's very suspenseful because you don't know. I mean, yeah, like Scott said, you know who's the bad guy and who's the good guy, but beyond that, it's whoever comes in next is the suspense. So that's my last pick. There you go.
The last film that Anton Yelchin was in was We Don't Belong Here,
Okay.
which I never heard of.
But I know Green Room came out after his passing. I remember that specifically.
Yeah, it came out in 2015 and Star Trek Beyond was after that. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Scott, what's your last one?
Last one is, and I think this is a film that I have probably discussed on this show before, but just in a what have you been watching lately context. But we can bring it up again because it definitely fits into the horror genre. Written and directed by Panos Cosmatos or Panos Cosmatos. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but starring Nicolas Cage and Linus Roach, released in 2018. This is Mandy.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
That she came and she gave without taking.
This-
That is the exact same joke you said the last time you brought this movie up.
I did?
Yes.
Good for me. I'm consistent.
Or predictable, whichever one you want to say.
I'll take it.
This movie is trippy as hell.
Well, anything
Oh,
with
man.
Nicolas Cage in it lately is going to be trippy as hell.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, and I don't even like saying that he's careless with what he chooses to do. I don't think that Nicolas Cage is taking anything that comes his way. He's just choosing to. I think he's developed the reputation of people being able to approach him with pretty much any wild idea they have. It's like, hey, this is a horror movie. It's going to sound like Five Nights at Freddy's, but it's not Five Nights at Freddy's. It just kind of sounds like it. Imagine a deadly, gory romp through a haunted Chuck E. Cheese. What do you say? And Nicolas Cage is like, that sounds cool. I want to do it. So he'll do it. He'll do what he wants to do, and he's pushing himself to try new and interesting things. He's not just desperate for whatever work comes along. This is an example of him. This is an example of him, stepping outside of the norm and trying to do something that's offbeat, and it is wild and crazy.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Go ahead.
It looks like a time warp back to a psychedelic 1970s horror film, but with some modern movie making sensibility thrown in there. The movie's gonna spin you around, turn you upside down, and you'll end up kind of laughing and being slack-jawed all at the same time. This movie is a ride. And I saw a trailer recently for another with Elijah Wood and someone else playing. I want to say it's like a based on true events drama about, I think might be Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy.
No, Elijah Wood. There is a Ted Bundy movie out right now, but it's got the guy from the High School Musical movies. What's it? Zac Efron.
Zac
It's got him in it.
Because he looks
Okay.
exactly like him, and it's really scary.
Yeah,
But this
I don't know
this
if
new-
Nicolas Cage is in that or not.
I don't think he is.
No. But this new Elijah Wood movie that's coming up, where Elijah Wood is I think he's a reporter, and he's interviewing a serial killer, a real, a serial killer that existed in our reality, and telling the story about this reporter talking to him and getting the interviews and getting more information out of him. And I can't remember what serial killer it was, but that movie is directed by the same guy who wrote and directed Mandy, and that makes me want to go see it.
I'm looking it up right now. It is called
No
No Man of God. Yeah.
Yes, that's
And it
the
is
one.
Ted Bundy. It is
There
Ted
it
Bundy.
is.
Okay.
There it is. Ted
Nicolas
Bundy.
Cage has got a movie out now called Pig that I've seen. And
you watched it?
yeah. Imagine
I haven't. I haven't watched it yet.
imagine the movie Taken, except Liam Neeson is a truffle farmer, and instead of his daughter being taken, it's his pig.
Yeah.
Oh, that's totally a
That's the movie.
In addition to that, that's my pick. Mandy is crazy. Nicolas Cage's wife gets killed at the beginning of the film, and he decides to go and track down the people who did it and give them what for. So there's going to be a point where I think he's been wrapped up in barbed wire, so he's tore up a little bit and bleeding, and he downs like a half bottle of vodka, and you see him just kind of prancing around the bathroom, just
We
getting
have talked
absolutely
about this
crazy,
before,
pouring vodka on the wounds, screaming. He finds a buddy of his who who is holding on to his crossbow and his other various weapons, and you see Nicolas Cage forge an axe, like drop forge from scratch, a full-size battle axe. And he takes that with him to go and track down the bad guys. And at one point he ends up like tasting a highly concentrated like LSD beverage, and then you see his mind explode from the psychedelics, and then he continues on the rampage. This movie is goddamn bonkers, and everyone should watch it.
There
Right.
you go.
If you have never watched what's the title of it, the life and death of Superman Lives, is that the name of the documentary?
Something like that, where he was going to play Superman, and it was like Tim Burton, and it was
It's
The Death of Superman Returns.
The Death of
Yes.
Superman Lives.
It's What Happened, The Death of Superman Lives.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Watch that movie just for the conversations between Tim Burton and Nicolas Cage, and you will see just how fucking insane Cage is.
All right.
Well, he's also the guy that named one of his kids Kal-El.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if for people who enjoy how crazy Nicolas Cage is getting these days, one of his more recent films, which I do have and I did watch just a couple weeks ago, and that is, where did it go? Prisoners of the Ghostland,
Okay, I've heard of that too.
which is an odd post-apocalyptic. It definitely shades of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome in this movie. Post-apocalyptic, like somewhat pseudo-Mexican mixed with Japanese, mixed with the Old West type of aesthetic in the town that they're in. You get Nicolas Cage, who is contracted to go and find a kidnapped girl, and the guy who hires him to do it puts him into a leather motorcycle suit that has 2 explosives here at the base of his neck, 1 explosive on each arm, and 1 explosive above each testicle on the suit. And if it takes him too long to get the job done, then explosives will go off. If the suit reads that he is about to, lift his hand to a woman, then one of the explosives in his arm goes off. If he gets sexually aroused, then one of the explosives in testicles goes off. And I will just say that's 6 explosives total on the suit.
Mm.
The movie does not end with 6 unexploded bombs. I'll just say that. Nicolas Cage himself describes it as perhaps the wildest project he has ever participated in.
Wow.
this movie is gonzo. And Rick, Sophia Boutella co-stars.
Quite cool.
Oh, there you go.
Oh wow. Thanks for the moral dilemma there.
See, another actor he would watch. See, there you go.
I adore her. Yes. I'm one of 3 people that enjoyed her in The Mummy.
She wasn't bad in The Mummy. I will admit.
I don't. That movie was not bad, but it wasn't what everybody wanted it to be, and so it tanked. It was fine.
Try out, Rick. Try out Prisoners of the Ghostland. I do not consider it a bad movie. It is an offbeat movie, but it's trying a lot of interesting things and not making a hash of it.
Okay.
They made the movie they wanted to make, and it's unusual, but that doesn't make it bad.
And by the way, speaking of Sophia Boutella, a lot of people, there's a lot of talk since Daniel Craig they just released the last Daniel Craig Bond movie of wanting a female Bond. And there's already been a female Bond. It was called Atomic Blonde, and Charlize Theron was amazing in it.
Yep.
And Sophia Boutella is in it.
Yes.
And boy, was Sophia Boutella.
Oh yeah.
All right, Rick, what's the last one on your list?
Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit. First of all, I want to throw out a couple of just really quick honorable mentions because these movies are so universally good. They don't really need a whole lot of defense or anything. Il Orfanato, watch it in Spanish. Pan's Labyrinth and Shaun of the Dead. Those movies don't need really to be hyped up because If you haven't seen them, you should. And if you have seen them, you know. There are two movies that I watched. Okay. There was a podcast called The Little Shop of Horrors that ran for many years and did about 8 episodes. it was Boz, who you've heard us mention before. You don't know who Boz is.
It
Boz
was
is
called The Little Pot of Horrors.
Little pot of horrors.
Isn't that what
yeah.
I said?
You said the
No,
Little
you
Shop
said
of
shop.
Horrors.
Little shop of
damn it.
horrors.
I'm drunk. little
Cool.
pot of horrors. Sorry. The hosts are Boz, who you've heard us mention, and Gordon, who they're both very, very, very dear friends of mine, and I've had the pleasure of meeting both of them in person. And they love horror movies. I don't. But for some reason, I got the idea to pitch this idea to them. The initial concept was that I'm going to use some naughty words here, but just bear with me for a second. Not that I haven't before, but the initial idea was that I'm such a pussy when it comes to horror movies. But then it was pointed out to us, very rightfully so, that particular organ is not in any way a representation of weakness, because that particular organ goes through a lot. And
Yep.
so we changed
Yes.
it. So we changed it to Operation Shrinky Dick at the suggestion of Ro Karen. Yes, because our apparatus is way more delicate. And anyway, so the idea was that they would give me horror movies to watch, being the squeamish person that I am, and then I would come on their show and we would talk about the movie that I watched and whether I liked it. And some of the ones I watched were absolutely dreadful. They had me watch Piranha 3D.
Oh,
Or
God, yeah.
they wanted me to watch Piranha 3D, and I actually didn't watch that one. Shark Night. Oh God, that movie was terrible. There was a ghost movie. I can't even remember the title of it. It just wasn't scary. But they assigned to me this, and that's why I've seen like The Descent. The Descent was really good. Not a movie I'll ever watch again, but it's really good. And I think El Orfanato was in there.
Okay, just real quick question. Did you watch it with the original ending or the American ending of The Descent?
The Descent?
Yeah.
The original ending.
Okay.
It did not end happily.
No, it doesn't.
No, it was not a happy ending at all. Which is why when I heard there was a sequel, I was like, huh?
Right, because of the American ending. Yeah.
Yeah. There are a couple of scenes that there's one scene in particular that still haunts me, involving a rock. But anyway, I just wanted to throw those out there, say that those were, but there's two movies. I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I'm clumping them together. One I watched as a result of being on The Little Pot of Horrors. The other one I watched just because Tom Hiddleston was in it. And both of them are similar in the fact that they are incredibly atmospheric and they're really well done, but they just don't quite stick the landing. And the first one that I watched for the show was the Daniel Radcliffe movie, The Woman in Black,
Mm-hmm.
which is an amazing ghost story. But they chickened out at the end and they gave it a kind of happy ending when the play, which it's based on, didn't. I don't want to spoil it because the ending is not happy at all, but it's a bit of a cop-out. And coming from me, who was like, I really need something to let me out of this grip of fear. And they did. And when they did, I was disappointed because I was like, they shouldn't have done that. Have any of y'all seen it?
I know I've
haven't,
heard of
no.
it quite a bit, but I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, then none of y'all know what I'm talking about. It's a really good
Okay, I
movie.
think John's
It's
seen
a
it.
really
Yeah.
good movie. It's just the ending. They pulled back just a little bit,
Mm.
and I can't say anything more without spoiling. But anyway, Woman in Black. The other one, Crimson Peak,
I was about to say, I was like, is it Crimson Peak?
It's Crimson Peak. and it's so it's like spending an hour, 2 hours in a haunted house, but you're never really in fear for anything. It's wonderfully atmospheric. It's beautifully shot. There's some, there's some jump scares and stuff, but it's on the one hand, I was glad that, when we went home, I didn't have nightmares about it. But on the other hand, it could have been such a gripping terror story, and they just kind of didn't go that, just that little bit further. It was like when we lived in Louisiana, there was a movie that came out called 1408, which was Sam
yeah.
Jackson and
John Cusack.
Mhm.
John
John
Cusack,
Cusack.
yeah. Which was funny because our address was 1408. And
Yeah, it's
so we
based on
went
a
to see
Stephen
it,
King story. Yeah.
and it's utterly unscary. It's
Mhm.
completely limp. It's like these movies have these great premises, and then they just don't have the cojones to go for it at the end. And I don't know if that's studio meddling or directors that just don't have the stones to do it. And yes, I know I've just made 2 testicle references. Sorry.
Well, the stories sometimes they just don't translate to film very well.
Yeah.
Because
Well, Crimson Peak.
1408
Go
is a
ahead.
really good short story by Stephen King.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the film
Film was
it
just
didn't
meh.
translate. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Crimson Peak, it was studio interference because it was either written or directed by Guillermo del Toro, and he can do some pretty,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
mean, it's gorgeous. It's,
Mhm.
it's like spending a night in the Addams Family house, but in the morning, everybody goes home happy. Although there's a really cool fight in the bathroom that's not in the house, but it's, it's not a movie you're going to take your kids to, but it's just not what it could have been. It was like so close.
Mhm.
All right. The last one on my list, I can't do this without mentioning Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007.
Okay.
If it was possible to take a horror franchise like Halloween and make it even darker, Rob Zombie found a way to do it, because the movie didn't do well in theaters, but I really like it. I like the new, more serious take on the whole lore. I really thought that I thought he was going to make it more realistic, which he did up to a point. But when it gets to the final act, they make it clear that this is still a Michael Myers that's like this unstoppable force. You can shoot him or burn him or whatever, and he's not going to stop coming, So, and then the second one was good too. They started out, the one thing that I don't like is they started out trying to humanize Michael Myers a little bit, and then they still turned him into a monster. And like there's a scene in the beginning with sorry, somebody just pulled in the parking lot and then turned around and left. I can never remember the guy's name. What's the guy that played Badass? I'm talking about, Scott, the Tortuga on Breaking Bad.
In the movie Badass,
Yeah.
that's Danny Trejo.
Yeah, Danny Trejo. So he plays a guard in the insane asylum where Michael Myers is.
Machete, don't
And
text.
Yeah, Machete. There you go. And then he's telling this new guard, he's like, "Oh yeah, me and Mikey, we're close. I've been taking care of him since he was a little kid. Blah 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 blah." It's the first dude that Michael kills when he breaks out. So yeah, if you like the first Halloween movie, you might enjoy this update because the later Halloween movies kind of got campy a little bit, and I'm not crazy about some of those, but it's got Malcolm McDowell in it. He plays Loomis, and so you got that going for you right there. So
That was the Donald Pleasance character in the originals, right?
yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I like the new Halloween that they're doing now, but this was just a much darker take on it. It's straight up horror. It's not the fun campy slasher movie that you got in the 80s or whatever. This is a more serious take on it.
Mm.
Yeah, slasher movies are supposed to be fun.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
It means that to the people who were into it back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, I mean,
I saw the original Friday the 13th, and that was a messed up movie.
I liked the first one because it turned out the killer was not who everyone thought it was.
It didn't matter who the killer was. There was just all these horrible things going on.
yeah. Well, I mean, if you're not into slasher movies, you're not,
But
not
we
into
hadn't
anything,
seen anything like that before.
But yeah,
I saw it in the cinema, and I regret that to this day.
Had a very young Kevin Bacon in it.
Yeah.
well, it
he
was
got
just
an
the
arrow
next.
through his
It was
neck.
just the next evolution because we'd been all the way, ever since Psycho came out in the 50s or 60s, I think.
60s, yeah.
Yeah, it's just you have a steady progression, and then when you got to the 80s, it was time for the slasher film to be born, and now everything is trying to kind of harken back to that, be kind of nostalgic with that. We're starting to get movies like Freaky that I talked about earlier, where it's like a comedic take on the slasher genre with a little bit of magic sci-fi kind of mixed in. Virginia, you have anything else you want to add before we close up?
I can't think of anything. Thank you for letting me hop on last minute.
Thank you for joining us.
It's always great to see you.
Rick, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you?
You can find me in your local graveyard behind the third tombstone to the left. Playing knucklebones with the zombies.
All right, Jen.
I'm not in the graveyard, but I'm probably in the haunted house next to the graveyard. So there you go.
All right, Scott, where can we find you?
You can find me right here on Cosmic Potato, often on that Star Trek podcast, occasionally on Captain Game Show, formerly on the Prime Direction before I handed the reins off to Rick. Does anyone notice that I'm saying exactly what I said the last show that we recorded an hour and a half ago? And I'm currently in production of the first season of my new podcast, I'd Watch That for $1, where I sit down with a guest and we review a movie that I purchased on DVD or Blu-ray from my local dollar store. Movies that most everyone has not seen. However, if you're tired of listening to me and you would like to see some of my work instead, you can visit my website at www.planetrisecreative.com for a bunch of my graphic artwork. And if you don't want to navigate the website, you can check out my Twitter at PlanetRise.
All right. And if you want to get in touch with us, stay tuned. We'll let you know how. Thank you all for 200 episodes. I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. Be sure to join us next time.
Wait.
There's.
Oh, by the way, John, where can we find you elsewhere on the internet?
On Captain Game Show, the trivia and wordplay podcast of the Infinite Potato Network.
There you go.
That's my John impression. He sounds absolutely like this. He's got two M. Oh, right. I shouldn't read that.
You don't have to read every note. All right. Be sure to join us next time on Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast, when you might hear John say, "Two butts are weird." That's it. They're just weird.
It's not two butts. It's just
It's
two.
butts are weird. That's the
Oh,
second.
okay. The first one is
That's
one.
the second might hear John say.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Be
boy.
sure to join us next time on Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast, Hey, I mean, two butts are weird.
Yeah. The five-assed monkey.
Be sure to join us next time on Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast, when you might hear John say, you know, if Peter Parker would just patent web fluid, he'd be set for life. Plus, you know, I can think of all sorts of applications: medical, transportation, construction, etc. And butts are weird. That's it. They're just weird.
I love podcasts.